Hey yo, my name is Sarah, and it is summer! Yes! Finals are over, people, and the best way to start off this summer vacation is by the book review or light novel review of, okay, I'm going to cheat here, the first volume of The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt, parentheses, How About Treason, by Toru Toba. If the title doesn't say it all. Non-spoilers, I give this light novel a 3 out of 5 stars. As you can see, it's a small light novel, and in a way it's good because it introduces us into this world where, honestly, I am really intrigued, especially about the main character. Our main character, he is Crown Prince Wayne of the Kingdom of Natra, and everyone thinks he's the picture perfect prince and cares about everything, and he's a young man, 16 years old, and he's already up there god tier level, while in reality the moment he closes the door he is a mess. He is the one character that doesn't want to do the work and just wants to spend the good life, but no matter how many times he tries, things just don't go as planned, which I found hilarious. We also have the introduction to his personal aide. Her name is Nim. She is that, you know, secretary that's always with the glasses. She doesn't have glasses, but you know what I mean. And she's like, "Sir, you need to do this work before doing anything else." Like, "Oh, I don't want to. We should just sell." Nim, why are you bending my arm? It doesn't bend that way." It's like, "I'm sorry, sir. Here, you can do this to busy your time." And she gives him like mountain-sized stacks of papers, and he's like, "Is this all?" I'm like, "No, this is just the beginning," which I found hilarious. Like I said, this is a small light novel. It just gets us right into the world, especially with the Kingdom of Natra, where it happens to be in a geographical location that's not good. It's kind of stuck between two kingdoms on the main road, so they have one kingdom on their back that's kind of an ally, kind of pushing its weight, while the other one's just like waiting to strike. And basically a domino effect happens where Wayne finds himself doing more responsibilities than he desires. Again, this is like a nice, fun little quick read. It lets you know what we're getting ourselves into, if you want to continue with it or not. I liked Wayne a lot because of his personality. Yes, he's a guy. He has that little, you know, moments, but he's also where he does think things in advance. He also thinks of possible alternative situations that can go down good. Who knows? And Nim, I liked her a lot as well. Besides being the aide, the close friend that was raised with Wayne since childhood, she also is able to lead when she needs to or when she's given orders to. And so again, it's just like a fun little read to let you know if you want to continue the series, go ahead. If you don't, fine. You had a nice little read to pass the time, and again, my interest has peaked. And that's as far as I can get into non-spoilers. The Genius Prince's Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt, parentheses, How About Treason, by Toru Toba. 3 out of 5 stars. Bye, non-spoilers. Spoilers. So like I said, we have the Crown Prince Wayne of the Kingdom of Natra. Apparently, he is now Prince Regent because the king has fallen ill. He's 16 years old. Of course, all the main characters have to be 16-year-olds. And so we get the sense that the officials of the government and the military, they kind of look up to him because he's so mature for his age. He will do good for this kingdom. While in reality, Wayne doesn't want to step on any toes because he's constantly thinking about a coup happening against him. While at the same time, he just wants to sell off the kingdom because he is saying, "We are dirt poor." Nim, on the other hand, is like, "No, we're not dirt poor. We just happen to be lacking in, you know, labor, resources, capital." Well, Wayne is like, "That is dirt poor. We should just sell this country to the empire and get out of here." And Nim is like, "Oh, you're still so silly. Here, while you're venting your anger, why don't you do all this mountain of work?" He's like, I don't want to do this." He's that character, people. He's that character. The moment you get him behind closed doors, you see the real Wayne. So I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. What I mean by the Empire is we have the Earth World Empire and the Imperial Ambassador. Her name, it's spelled differently, but it kind of sounds the same. Her name is Fish Blundell. She is a representative from the Empire, and apparently it's one of those places that started out very small, but then with the proper rulings, it grew and grew and grew until it's this massive power. And after dealings with the previous king of Natra before he took ill, he made a deal with Fish that allowed them to station troops from the Empire there for training purposes. Yeah, and Wayne's like, yeah, that's a problem. Not many soldiers and generals like that. That could cause a problem if things go south, where it could be seen as an invading army. How are we going to deal with this? Well, in the meantime, Fish is like, how am I going to deal with this prince? We haven't officially met, so I don't get the feel for him. We see in this light novel a constant battle of chess with possibilities and how the next person is going to move. So I'm like, I play chess, but I go in there without a plan. That's always been my strength. I go in there without a plan, and once we have everything in place, then I start thinking of the next moves. I don't start thinking about these moves before we even begin the game, so I would obviously lose to Wayne. We also have this fun little telepathy moment where you're not reading their minds, but you just know the person's characteristics. It's a small little snippet, and again, Wayne is the guy in the light novel, so of course he's going to look at Fish, and he's going to look at Nim, who's writing behind him little notes, and he's going to compare their bust size, and he's like, if only, and then all of a sudden, whack, a quill hits him in the back of the head, and Nim's still writing her own little things, and he's like, how do you know this? I found that funny. They just know each other so well enough that you can just be thinking the wrong thing, and Nim is going to be on you like a hawk. We come out of the meeting with things turning out well for Natra, because Wayne kind of sees through things. He also puts up this opportunity to basically say, oh, our soldiers in Natra aren't that really well trained. Hey, here's a good idea. Why don't y'all help train us? And Fish's like, wait, what? Yeah, can you please train our soldiers in the way of the Empire and also fund for the training? So we found out, Natra doesn't have any money. And with this deal going through, not only has his military been trained properly, but they also now have money to put in their reserves. So Fish is like, he's something else. Hey, we should do some more research, but let's keep a close eye. Well, Wayne's like, yes, I can train these people, make this military look competent, so when the Empire, because we found out that the Emperor is getting better, when the Empire comes, we have something to offer, and we get more money. Yay, that's the goal of the plan. And this is where the string of unlucky events for Wayne happens, because he's thinking of all of these great things that can help out, that can work in his favor, and everything just takes a left turn because he imagined, because the Emperor is getting better, the Emperor dies, and the Empire troops withdraw from Natra. And that basically means that Natra is open for grabs for other kingdoms. And it's like, what a wrong prediction happening. And Wayne's like, how come nothing's going the way I planned? Even though some things do go the way he plans. While Fish is dealing with political upheaval in the Empire because no one can make up their mind who wants to rule, and we're getting, factions happening in the court. As time goes on, Wayne does continue to buy weaponry from the Empire, and of course we have some people asking, particularly his younger sister. Yes, he has a younger sister, and Rucklam, who is a general who's loyal to Wayne, just like Nim is, because he knows everyone else is more loyal to his father and the country than to him, so these are the two people that he can fully trust, it's just Rucklam and Nim. And he says basically the reason why he's been buying this is to stay in good favors with the Empire, to give the military some weaponry, and we also get this messenger. He's like, oh, so it finally has happened. They are now getting invaded by a neighboring country because we have the Empire to the east and we have Martin to the west. So it's now an opportunity for this neighboring country that's so close to home and who has very different political and religious beliefs to attack Natra. So Wayne predicted this possibility, which is like a good thing, because yeah, it's good to also put in a variable that would be a negative outcome, to even though it's like a 1% possibility of happening, just have it there for just in case. And it worked out for Wayne because we are about to go to war. Martin is also a small country, but the only reason why it's more influential is because it has a gold mine that is very valuable, and because of that, their military, their economics and all that stuff has been able to rise. So that's also giving them more of a encouraging boost to go after Natra. And while, you know, all the generals of Natra are eagerly listening to Wayne saying, you know, we should be careful, but we should also do this and this, they're like, oh, our prince is the best, he is a genius, don't worry, our prince, we will live up to your expectations. Well, in reality, of course, Wayne is planning to see how the military performs, see how they do in a good battle, and hopefully that works well on their resume when he presents it to the new ruler of the empire. We have our first battle with Martin, and it's on an open, boggy field, kind of like, and our first half of the battle works in the favor of Natra because the people of Martin, they're just a big ragtag military group that just charges in with no coordination, while we see that Natra, with the training of the empire, we are in unison, we are in sync, we have formations, we are doing good. But one of the generals did point this out to Wayne before they began battle, and he also thought about this, was that this is the Natra's very first battle. The country's never really had means to go to war, or, you know, reason as to why, but here we are, our first battle, and of course everyone's running on the high, but the longer it goes, we see that Natra's inexperience to holding long battles is shown because they're kind of weakening in stamina, and the generals from the other side of Martin notices that because even though their men are all uncoordinated, they've been through some battles, so they know how to pace themselves. So like, oh, it's turning in our favor, we can actually win this, and like, are we actually gonna retreat, people? But of course, the genius of Wayne has predicted this possibility as well, because here comes the general from the opposing side, crashing through the field because the soldiers of Natras, their defense line is very thinned out, and he's going straight for Wayne, and Wayne does call a retreat from up there, and the soldiers are following them. It's like, I smell a trap. And apparently so, because Wayne had sent Nim out first, because we get these mentions of these spy circuits, because apparently Wayne has spies in other courts to gather information, and we also have that possible thought that there might be spies in our ranks. So he sent Nim out a month early to a position near the battlefield in preparation, and apparently that plan worked, because while the enemy soldiers and the general are chasing Wayne, Nim lights them up with a barrage of arrows. It is blackening out the sun arrows time. And all of this is happening, Fish, back in the Empire, gets updates of what's going on. And she's like, this is very sus. How could, you know, Wayne know all this? And they do dig deeper, and they find out that Wayne disguised himself as a commoner and joined the military school in the Empire for 2 years. And guess who was with him? Nim. And it's like, we trained the very beast that could take us out. Wayne! It's like, oh, the planning for possible future events. Not my forte. Again, I go in without a plan until I figure out, yes, we now need to do this. Wayne has thought this through and through for like 2 years. With the assistance and surprise attack of Nim, we not only turn around the battle, but we also kill the general, and because of that, Martin troops' spirits have been defeated. They begin their retreat, and we have won the battle. But the generals, of course, they're like, oh, we should now invade. Well, Wayne is thinking while he's in that cool pose, he's like, oh, how much the army in this campaign is eating our funds, and we cannot supply ourselves going further in. So he decides to give them the impossible task. He's like, fine, but we should go for the heart of Martin, the most national treasure. And they're like, what is that? And he points to the map. The gold mine! And he's like thinking, this is the impossible task that they will think we should think this through and everything. And you can see the discouragement in some until you get that one person. My prince, we have underestimated your brilliance. You must have a plan to do this. And I was like, wait, yes, this is the prince. Of course he would have a thorough plan to doing this very impossible task that we can get the mine. Who is for it? For the mine. And Wayne is like, oh my god, this is not going as planned. And it's funny because here he is in an office with Nim, and they're both doing that. So what do we do now? While we see the window in the background of the mine. They actually took the mine because this most prized place was guarded by a lackluster troop people that ran the moment they saw that they were outnumbered. So they have the mine, they're in Marden, and what do we do now? We get a POV from the Marden Royal Court. The king, of course, he's that typical king that pleasures himself too much, and he's panicking because he is basically a pawn king for the courts to use, and we find out that there are two factions. We have the Madia, who are the nation born, that, you know, born into royal families, go to the military and join the royal courts, that kind of thing. But we also have the Stella, who are foreign born people who rise in the ranks through their own achievements, but they're also very sus because they hold no real allegiance to the country, and they all work for money, and we see that because they're trying to get the king to do one thing while the other is trying to do another. So the king of Marden comes up with a decision. He is gonna pull all the troops that are guarding their borders from enemy nations to attack Wayne's people to get the mine back because it's oh so precious, while he's also giving the other group an opportunity to negotiate before they get the troops to get the mine back and get Natra to retreat. So it's like, okay, let's see how this goes. Well, in reality, back at the mine, things aren't going so well. We meet a young man by the name of Pellant, who apparently was a noble but disagreed with things, so he was sent here as punishment to die. And he's also the speaking representative to the miners because after seeing how terrible their living conditions were, Wayne told everyone, you know, to build them makeshift houses, better houses, and, you know, basically give them the supplies they need to make it through and everything. And because of that generosity, they have now more people helping them with the mines because they also lost information on where is which in the mines. But because of Pellant, and he is asking Wayne to like look after the people after all this is said and done, and he does agree. Pellant does give him valuable documents that they thought were lost, and it was of the mine, a map, a very detailed map. He's like, awesome, we can use this. But ever since Pellant's been there, he's been recording everything, and by everything I mean we have information that the mine is drying up. So Wayne is like, we did all of this for a nearly depleted mine. What do we do? And of course we get a message saying we have a representative from Marden coming to speak negotiations, and that's when it clicks. And Nim is like, what are you thinking? He's like, I shall sell this mine back to Marden. Surely they don't know it's drying up. Nim does warn Wayne about, you know, don't be too greedy, because we see that he's willing to do whatever it takes for the good of the country, and sometimes he gets a little carried away. And with this mine situation, it was a little bit because he overplayed his hand, because he heard the representative's proposal of what to do, and here he is trying to make a point, keeping his composure. And the representative actually sees him as a very respectful prince and everything. He also asks about Nim. What is she to you? And he says, my heart, because we find out Nim is from a group of people that aren't really well looked upon by other countries, and the country of Natra is basically this one big group of different cultures, peoples, and everything, and they accept them. And that's how Nim is very close to the prince, because again, even though she is a different people, Wayne doesn't really, he cares for her so much that we also get this little hint from Rockland, who was talking with Pellant, that the last time 3 people insulted Nim, they disappeared. And so he really respects Nim, and he cares deeply for her. And so when the representative gets the idea that this is a very just young man, he's like, I am sorry for wasting your time. I understand that the prince will not willing to let go of this mine and the people that you have taken into your care, so I respect your decision, and I shall go tell my king your what you have said. He's like, wait, what? In other words, he overplayed his hand, and we are about to get attacked by the Marden forces. And there is a moment where they're passing notes and everything, Nim and Wayne saying, hey, if this doesn't go well, I'll stick a potato up my nose. And after that happened, they looked at each other with that ... moment, and then Nim said, I'll go get the potato. We get the Marden forces led by a Stella general named Drogwood, who he's not really well trained in the Arts of War, but he thinks because we have a larger force, we can defeat Natra. The thing is, he told everyone we will be done in a week. Well, eventually this battle takes 3 weeks, but that's because Natra, with the leanings of Wayne, we basically use the environment to our advantage and guerrilla warfare tactics, as well as Wayne thinking of psychological warfare. During this campaign, Martin's soldiers have run into trenches, they've ran into places that weren't supposed to be there. The soldiers of Natra are using their environment to their advantage, and they eventually get information, Martin, that there is a possible cave that leads into a mine that's unprotected. So they set up some troops there, and they say if they see any Natra soldiers, kill them and invade. So opportunity, right? Well, one general sees some Natra soldiers, and they give chase, only 100 soldiers, and that's when they realize, why weren't they exactly clothed for battle? And the moment they realize it's too late, we get a report in the Martin encampment that the cave collapsed. So that was the plan, to lure as many soldiers in there and seal it off. So even though they only lost 100 soldiers, that was Wayne's point. He wanted them to mentally think, like, be hesitant for the next attack against Natra because they are proving more difficulty than they anticipated. Another attack was in the middle of the night after Natra purposely allowed Martin to reclaim some ground. At that night, Rockland led a group of 30 men. I was thinking of Ramsay Bolton at the time. Y'all know what I mean. During season 5 of Game of Thrones, when he overtook Stannis, he led 30 soldiers into enemy territory, started fires, and left before anyone could, like, you know, realize what happened. And before Martin soldiers can collect themselves, we hear this rumbling sound and everything, and they think it's the Natra soldiers getting ready to attack because it's their HQ that's being under fire. And while Drogwood and his soldiers are defending HQ, they realize what's coming down is not actually soldiers, but boulders and logs that make it sound like a large army is approaching. And while they're distracted setting up these defenses, Natra reclaims the territory they gave up earlier that morning. So it's like all of that was for naught. It's like, wow, big brain moment. We get closer to the end of this campaign, and the court is feeling the pressure, and we get messages from Martin to send a representative to discuss negotiations. Well, Drogwood does send someone to go talk to Wayne. Well, at the same time, they're getting ready for another counterattack because, you know, they're like, these dogs, they will never, and everything. So this representative goes to speak to Wayne, and he shows no respect at all, especially when he sees Nym, and he insults her as well at this time where, you know, Wayne turns down the negotiations because none of this works in their favor. And Nym basically says she can feel a dark energy oozing off of Wayne. I was like, did he just turn into Oscaline for a second? And Wayne is like saying we should prepare for a counterattack. And while Nym is preparing for these battle plans, Wayne walks out and he looks to a guard and he growled out, like, you know, through gritted teeth. He said, "Summon Rockland." I was like, oh, we're seeing a dark side. The plan for this battle was to, you know, meet the soldiers, the Martin soldiers on the battlefield, and also, like, you know, retreat, lose some ground and everything while driving these soldiers closer in. And at the time, Drogwood is thinking that he has the upper hand until a messenger and some followers come up and say, you know, I have a message from, you know, General Logan, the representative that spoke ill of Nym. And he's like, okay, what's the message? And the messenger throws the head of Logan at Drogwood. And a quick attack and spears raining down from above onto the tent. And Drogwood's still alive. And he's like, oh, you're still alive. I was always clumsy with my sword work. It is the Wayne, Rockland, and some of their soldiers. And they disguised themselves as Martin's soldiers. And he said the reason why they collapsed that cave is so they could no longer think about a possible attack from there, because Wayne had the miners set up another cave system near there. So it's like they had another cave, but the main cave that they leaked information about was gone. So like people were thinking, okay, they can never come out through there again. And he said, Logan just happened to be there at the time. And it's like, I think he took a little too much pleasure in killing Logan because he insulted your aide and your best friend and your childhood friend that you respect so heartedly. After this battle, the Martian soldiers do retreat, and Wayne thinks they're retreating to, you know, recoup and everything, but we actually find out that they're actually retreating, and the soldiers are happy. But then Nim comes by with the reports from their spies, and she says, the king is dead. He's like, wait, what? Yes, because they pulled the troops away from their borders that were guarding against neighboring nations. The kingdom of Cavallino has invaded and successfully taken over the kingdom of Martin. So, the dried up mine that he wanted to resell again is going to have a new potential buyer, and you know, maybe like a month has passed by, and we've already had talks with the new representatives of the now extended kingdom of Cavallino, and they say, you know what, y'all keep the mine, it's okay, just, you know, don't become invading us right now, and let's work on our relationships. Well, they have the mine that's supposedly dried up, but because of Pellin's resourcefulness, and because they still have representatives there doing the mine for the kingdom of Natra, we find out that there's actually some gold left in there. Not as much, but enough to keep the kingdom of Natra running. And Wayne was like, I just want to sell this kingdom off. And Nim's like, oh, you're so very funny, my prince. Here's all of these stacks of papers that you put off during this campaign. We have a lot of work to do, and this is your schedule. And we end off with this very foreboding short paragraph, people. The death of the Emperor of Earthworld set off a disturbing series of events across the continent. In time, the curtain would rise on an age known as the Great War of Kings. So in other words, nothing is looking well for Wayne. And that is the end of spoilers. Again, not much happened in here. It's basically set up between the kingdom of Natra and Martin, giving you a feel of how Wayne acts both as a prince and as himself. It's very funny. I do enjoy it. I also like how all these things he did plan out, that he was able to, you know, foresee possibilities, and how some things just like threw a little monkey wrench in the plan. I liked how that happened, and how he internally, he like was freaking out, like how come things never go my way, while on the other side he's also thinking of scenarios how to turn the changing tide into their advantage. Again, I like the relationship with him and Nim. She is that character that kind of does care about him. It doesn't feel like a romantic feeling at all. Kind of hope it doesn't turn that way. It feels like they're more like brother and sister, prince and aide, and fellow soldiers that were trained together. I like that. He does have the little sister. She has the sister complex, but she also starting to learn into politics and the ways how to help her older brother. I have a feeling we're going to see Fish again, because with the death of the Emperor, and they're probably going to need someone to represent them again, and who better yet than the one that has ties to the kingdom of Natra. So again, I think we'll see Fish. And again, we have this looming foreshadowing of what's going to happen because of the death of the Empire. That's always the problem with rulers that were so great during their time. They were so strong in everything, but the moment they die, everything goes up in flames. So, or better yet, than a small little itty bitty country that happens to be in the middle between the East and the West. So, Wayne, you have your work cut out for you. And yeah, The Genius Princess Guide to Raising a Nation Out of Debt. Hey, how about Treason by Toru Toba? 3 out of 5 stars. My name is Sarah, and